Maybe someone on mute?
I do.
Okay. All right. You'll be up first.
Okay.
Francis.
You ready?
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. My name is Dan Gerber. Thank you for applying. Can you give us a quick opening statement, about 2 minutes?
Yes, sir. My name is Francis DeMuro. I have been a practicing attorney since I was admitted to the Maryland bar in 1985. I practiced law in Maryland for about 20 years. It was a general practice where I did criminal defense, personal injury work, Social Security disability work, workers' compensation, family law, estates and trusts, a little bit of almost everything. I came down to Brevard County in 2005. The short reason for my coming to Brevard County was a baby who was an unexpected baby, and his mom is from here. She wanted to raise the baby here. I wanted to raise the baby in Maryland. You can imagine who won that discussion. But it's been a good thing. I've been in Brevard County since 2005. The first year I spent teaching school, 7th grade language arts and social studies at the River's Edge Charter Academy in Palm Bay. That was my original plan when I graduated from college, was to be a teacher. But after spending that 1 year, I have even more immense respect for those teachers. I was not terribly a good fit. The reason I spent the year teaching is I hadn't yet taken the Florida bar. So I took the Florida bar, I passed. I was admitted to the Florida bar in 2006. I was hired by the state attorney's office in Brevard County in 2006, and I've been there ever since. I've been in various positions with the state attorney's office, misdemeanor trial division, felony trial division, felony intake, and my present position, which is we call it the strike back division, where I prosecute repeat domestic violence offenders.
Thanks for your continued service. Mr. Pickett.
I'm Mr. DeMuro. How are you doing?
And
Fine.
you may have to lean in just a little bit.
Okay. So I have a couple of questions. You talked a lot about being in different roles at the state attorney's office. What specifically in your current role has prepared you to be a county court judge?
Well, the county court, in my view, is the court in which members of the public, you're most likely to see members of the public. That's not entirely true, but people will get charged with misdemeanors. Most people out there aren't felons. They may get a traffic ticket. They may get a driving while license suspended, that sort of thing. And you will also see the most serious cases, at least in the criminal arena, in the county court, are of course the DUIs and the batteries. A major component of those batteries are domestic violence batteries, and so those are always emotional cases because there's a victim. Sometimes the victim is uncooperative. Very often the victim is uncooperative for any number of reasons, that the defendant may control her. She depends on the defendant for financial support. And at other times, the victims may be too cooperative, where they have some sort of alternative agenda, where they're in the middle of a divorce or a custody proceeding, and they want to use a battery case for some sort of leverage. So I deal with victims all the time, and I think that would be an important thing for a county court judge to understand that type of case, the domestic violence, the cycle of violence, that sort of thing, and to be able to understand where victims are coming from.
Thank you.
Ms. Fallon. You got to have your person unmute.
I'm sorry, am I doing something wrong?
No.
Me.
It's just a little delay on the unmuting.
We have to unmute when we get called on, so it takes us just a moment. Good
I
morning,
see.
Mr. DeMuro.
Good morning.
It's nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you.
If you could tell us if there's one judge that you emulate through your years of practice, which judge would that be and why?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say that I think that the bench, both the circuit court bench and the county court bench in Brevard County, have some excellent judges. If we're talking about the county court bench, its present composition, I would say Judge Tom Brown. I think he treats everyone who comes before him with a great deal of respect, but I also think that he can be firm when he needs to be firm. I also think he runs a good docket and tries to keep the cases moving along. With respect to the circuit court, a judge that I practiced in front of and whom I greatly respect is David Dugan. Unfortunately, Judge Dugan is going through some health issues at the moment, but he's an outstanding judge. Again, he gets to the heart of the matter. He treats everyone with respect, and he runs a good courtroom. He runs a good docket.
Mr. Robinson.
Sorry about that. I tried to get technical and thought I could hit a couple keys and it would turn off mute. So
that was my great fear.
I need to stick to the old school and just press button, use a mouse. But Mr. DeMuro, I actually got a bunch of phone calls the last couple of days about you. And one of the things that kind of came out was people use words like you were very analytical, surgical, stuff like that. Can you describe, I mean, they were saying you're very analytical, very surgical in your approach to cases and how you prosecute in your processes. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank whoever made those phone calls. And I'd like to think that because I've been practicing law for as long as I have, and because I've done both defense work and prosecution, that I can see what needs to be done to prove the case from the prosecution side, and I can also see where the holes in the case from the prosecution side, or the advantages that the defense may have, the defenses that they may raise. And I try to, when analyzing a case, I try to look at it from the first time I see it and say, okay, from a prosecution standpoint, what do I need to prove this case? What witnesses do I need? What evidence do I need? And how can I prove the case in the most efficient way possible? I don't like to waste a lot of time. Sometimes some judges may think that I call a witness or two too many, but I really do analyze the cases, or I like to think that I analyze the cases to the in an attempt to see what I need and whittle it down to what really is needed, so that I can try the case in an efficient manner.
Ms. Delgado.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Perfect. Other than this application process, what else have you done to prepare yourself for the county court seat?
Well, in 2016, I actually ran for a county court position. I didn't win. In fact, I finished out of four candidates, I finished dead last. But that was it was an interesting experience. I worked very hard on the campaign. I'm very proud of what we did on the campaign. I was disappointed at the outcome, but I'm proud of what we did. The reason that I ran in that race is not because I had a burning desire to be a county court judge, and I don't mean any disrespect to anybody, any of the other candidates, but I thought that we, the citizens of Brevard County, deserve the best judges that we could have. And I just had, and again, I don't mean to be critical of any other candidates. I thought that the candidates that were in the race at the time that I got in the race just didn't have the necessary experience and the necessary temperament to be a good county court judge. Now, the judge that ultimately won, I think she's doing, that being said, I think she's doing an outstanding job. Again, I think I have a well-rounded legal background. I've done a lot of different things in my legal career, which both civil and criminal, which I think would prepare me for, and has prepared me for this position, for a county court position.
Okay. And you mentioned temperament. What type of temperament do you think is appropriate for a county court judge?
I think a county court judge needs to have a very even temperament. Sometimes things get a little heated in the courtroom, but the judge can't get sucked into that. And I think that if you talk to people who know me, they'll tell you that I have a very even temperament. I think they would also tell you that I generally get along well with most people. One of the things that I have been criticized for in the past, when I tell people, I say, I miss the practice of law from the criminal defense side because you had a relationship with your clients. They may have done something foolish or maybe criminal or stupid even, but you had a relationship with them. You really don't have that as a prosecutor. You have a relationship with a victim or with your victims, but it's not the same. And frequently I would say to somebody, yeah, he did something bad, but I kind of like him. And because they're human beings also, even though they may have done something bad or criminal.
Fair enough. Well, thank you for that response. I very much appreciate your time.
So thank you.
Mr. Dowdy? You'll have to unmute, Jeff. We'll all get used to this.
Sorry about that. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Great. Thanks for applying. How would you describe your relationship with defense bar in Brevard County?
I think I have a very good relationship with the defense bar in Brevard County. I think that if you ask most defense attorneys, they would say that that I deal fairly with them, that I don't try to play games, that I don't hide things from them, that I don't try to win at all costs, that I try to do the right thing. I think I have a very good reputation among the defense bar in Brevard County. In fact, a couple of my references that I listed on my application are in fact defense attorneys.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Ballantyne?
Good morning.
Good morning.
For applying, I just had one brief question. In your application, you've had a variety of different backgrounds and experiences. Which of those would you say probably prepared you the most for taking a county court judgeship, and why?
Well, probably my experience as a prosecutor. The reality is that when you're in private practice, you probably don't get to court as often as a prosecutor will, because that's just the way it works. You probably have fewer cases, and you may be in court a lot, but you don't try a lot of cases. You try. Some lawyers try more than others, but the reality is, the economic reality is, you can't afford to be trying cases all the time unless you have a tremendous staff and that sort of thing. So you try far more cases as a prosecutor, at least in my experience, than you do than I did as a defense attorney. And so I would, to answer your question, I would say that I have tried more cases in the state attorney's office than I ever did in private practice. But I had different type of trial experience as a private attorney. So I hope that answers the question.
That works. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sir, Is there a specific Florida Supreme Court justice or United States Supreme Court justice whose judicial philosophy you emulate, and why?
Well, I guess my answer to that question would be Judge Roberts on the present court, the present Supreme Court of the United States. And that's because I think he has a difficult job. He has in today's political climate, he has different sides. He has a court that is composed of members that have different judicial philosophies, and I think he tries to keep it all together. He seems to be somewhere in the middle, and I think that's important. I think it's important to be able to see both sides of an issue. I also would like to say that in that same vein, and unfortunately Judge Scalia has passed on, but I found it fascinating that he had a personal relationship, a very close personal friendship with Ruth Bader Ginsburg when their judicial philosophies were extremely far apart. He, of course, was an outstanding. He wrote outstanding opinions, but I just found that fascinating. And I think that's what needs to happen in the bar as a whole. That you can oppose each other, but you can still be cordial and professional with one another outside of the courtroom.
Thank you, Mr. Baer.
Good morning, Mr. DeMuro. You currently serve the community in a very important position in the strike back team. That provides a lot of protection for the individual victim and for your future potential victims. I'm curious your motivation for applying for this job and what it is that's driving you to do that.
Again, I think that the citizens of Brevard County deserve the most qualified judges that they can get. I'm not saying, I've seen the list of applicants. There are a lot. The list contains almost everybody on that list is qualified. I don't know all of them personally. I probably know 9 out of the, or 10 out of the list. But I think that we deserve the most qualified judges possible. At the risk of sounding vain, I think that I'm as qualified, if not more qualified, given my vast range of experience, than any of the applicants who've applied. And I just think that that's what the citizens deserve. I think we want to have good judges so that the members of the public have respect for our courts.
Thank you. And sir, you've got about a minute to sum up.
Well, I think that other than what's in my application, I would ask you to look at that, and I'm sure you have looked at it carefully. I really don't have a whole lot else to say other than I thank you all for giving me this opportunity to appear before you. I wish we were able to appear in person, because this technology stuff scares me a little bit, but I guess it's going to happen more and more in the future. But in any event, I hope that I've answered your questions. I hope that you consider my application, and I know you will. And I just thank you for your time.
Well, thank you for your time, and appreciate it, and have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you all.
All right.